to the Knick-Knack Review. Today we're looking at the film The Tomorrow War, starring Chris Pratt. Let's get started. So like I said before, The Tomorrow War stars Chris Pratt, and he plays this former military guy, and he's just, living the normal life as a teacher in a school. And he goes for this job offer, but you don't see it on screen right away. The movie starts off with him actually getting a call saying that they didn't accept his offer, and they went with someone else. So they have a gathering at his house, and he kind of has to go back there and give them not give them the bad news. He actually goes in there not saying anything, and just kind of keeps it to himself, and just put on a brave face for his family. So while they're watching this soccer game, all of a sudden this portal opens up in the middle of the field, and people walk out, a bunch of soldiers, and basically announce to the world that, hey, we're from the future, we're losing, we need as many people as we can. Your future depends on it. So the way it starts out, it's kind of different than, most movies. It definitely deals with time travel, just going to the future. But instead of kind of like going to the past trying to fix something, which they're trying to recruit from the past to help with the future, you're going to the future to try to fix something. It makes sense, but it's just, it's a little different take on that. So eventually Chris Pratt's character, he gets recruited for this war, and of course he tries to get out of it. And when you get recruited, it's kind of like you get this armband. I don't know what to compare it to really, just some kind of like gauntlet without the glove part, but it stays on there, and it's kind of like a countdown of how long you either have or how long you have to like be there in time in the future, and kind of like your tour. And it's he was like no, trying to get out of it. So he visits his dad, which you learn very quickly that he doesn't have a good relationship with his father, and he's played by none other than the great J.K. Simmons. Man, this I love almost everything he's in. I say almost because I obviously haven't seen everything, but he's such a good actor, and he's got such a presence about him, and he's made such an impact for me ever since I saw him as J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man movies and the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and now the current one. But he always brings such a good presence to whatever movie he's in, and he does such a great job acting. So it was a joy to see him with Chris Pratt, because that's something I never thought I would see. So he learned that his dad is kind of like, he has a particular set of skills, so he tries to get his dad to take the little gauntlet off of him, and while that's happening, you can kind of hear the resentment between the two, and really, they don't go into like the full detail of everything that happened, but you can tell that dad is sorry. He wants to be a part of Chris Pratt's life. He wants to be a part of his granddaughter's life, but he's like, you'll never see her, ever. You'll never come visit. You'll never do this. And I kind of felt bad for him, but at the same time, it was like, ooh, dang, man. Talk about a stab in the heart. And one thing about Chris Pratt's character, he wasn't the normal comedic, funny guy in this film. He might have had like a line here or two, but he wasn't trying to be funny. It was just like a one-liner he might have said that we could maybe like giggle or, chuckle a little bit, but he wasn't a comedic actor in this one. He was very serious. So later the scene cuts to where they kind of have their normal military briefing, but it's not the normal military briefing, and someone even mentions that you're not going to be doing pull-ups, you're not going to be doing push-ups, you're not going to be doing running and all this stuff, and they were like, oh man, I was kind of looking forward to that. And they just kind of go over what to expect in the future, what you're going to be doing very, very shortly, I might add. And that's when you kind of meet some of the supporting characters, and they're kind of expendable. I didn't have any issues with any of the supporting characters, but let me say this, without spoiling anything, I didn't care about them enough to really like wonder what is going to happen to them, or like I didn't attach to any of them. There was one in particular that I will say that I actually liked. I won't say anything because again I don't want to spoil anything, but there was only one of the supporting characters that I actually did like out of all of them. But right after that, they get sucked into the future, and they fall out of the sky, and that's actually how the movie starts. Chris Pratt is falling from the sky, and like he's about to land, and then boom, it cuts to him, and you think it's a dream. Well, it wasn't. It was just showing what was going to happen, and they end up falling in a pool. Well, you realize that when they're falling from the sky, these people are hitting the buildings, they're hitting the concrete. They don't have a particular spot. It's not like they get transported and then put right where they left. No, they literally just get sucked into this portal and they're just hope you make it, you know. And I don't think it was supposed to happen like that. I think that was a mistake on the time travelers, because it wasn't like a particular destination. It was just like, here, look, you got to go in the future. Go help us. So I was like, oh my gosh, they lost about probably more than half of the people that they just took up. And it was like, whoa, you go sign up to save the future and then you just fall to your death as soon as you get there. It's like, oh my God, that was a crazy scene. So after watching this movie for a while, it definitely gave me some vibes of some other movies. It definitely gave me some Quiet Place vibes with the creatures. A little bit of Cloverfield, because the creature kind of looked like a blend between Cloverfield and A Quiet Place. Quiet Place size, Cloverfield look. They were menacing, and the first time you see them, they're going up the stairs to a, I guess like not an apartment building. It was a kind of just I think a regular work building. And they were going up the stairs, and they finally actually see one of them. It was very creepy, and of course it was in the dark. And it finally looks at the camera, and you're just like, oh crap, that's what it is? And then you see the scope of it, the size, like A Quiet Place size, but they were just very menacing, and they were able to shoot little darts out, and it's like, oh crap, not only can they bite you and, you know, swat at you, but they can shoot stuff from a distance, so they can get you a few ways. These things were pretty violent and ugly. After they spot this creature, so it starts out kind of like a military movie. You can tell the people that were in the military, like Chris Pratt's character and this one other guy, they're, you know, like they're walking, they're holding the weapons, and you can tell they have some kind of experience. Just the way they're holding themselves, their posture and everything. And you can tell all the people that don't, and I actually like that little bit of detail. However, once the monsters come out, that's when, even though you have time travel and even though you have these monsters, that's where a sense of realism leaves the room. Because, and this is not necessarily a negative thing, because it kind of made me laugh and it was kind of cool, but when they started firing at the monsters, and I think they call them spikes, it reminded me of one of those arcade games that you have unlimited ammo and you just go and you're like trying to get all the points of this creature that's coming out after you, and you got to hit all the pressure points or whatever, or the little targets that the arcade says you got to hit, and it was just like unlimited ammo. And I'm like, wow, I'm not really like upset at this, but you know, because it was really cool, but I'm like, is he ever going to run out of ammo? And after a while, yes, you see him change a clip and everything, but it was just like, what the heck? That's kind of what it reminded me of. And granted, with the time travel, with the creatures, and with maybe a few other elements, they can kind of get away with that. But at the same time, little things like that, you tend to notice, especially after watching movies for a while. And, you know, you kind of like, oh, wait, no, they probably should have ran out of ammo about that time. Hey, it was a cool scene nonetheless. So if you're not really paying attention to that, you won't even notice. And one little aspect you find out after they kind of do their mission, he has an earpiece in his ear, and they have a woman that's guiding him throughout the whole mission. And when he meets her finally, he's like, oh, hey, how's it going? And he finds out the last name, Forrester, and he's like, oh yeah, where are you from? She's like, here. Oh yeah? And you can see that realization on his face, and he's like, oh wait, what? Turns out it's his daughter. Go figure. So now he's get to talk to his adult daughter, and that's when things get a little rougher for him, because you learn, spoiler alert, obviously, but you kind of learn that he ended up leaving his family at some point. He just couldn't fathom that. Like, I would never leave you and your mother. He ends up leaving. She resents him, and it's basically like, I resent you, even though I'm looking at the father right now that didn't do it. I still have a lot of resentment for you. So it's kind of like you're rooting for him to get that love back from her, but at the same time, it's like, well, no, he's already got his daughter in the past that he knows. So it's kind of like, I kind of felt bad for him, but at the same time, as long as he survives, all in all, he's got his daughter in the past or in the present, so he can correct anything. You know, he can do better once he gets back. Now, there's one scene in this movie that I actually had to laugh at. They actually managed to capture one of them alive, and they had him in a helicopter, and they took off, and a whole horde of them came out of nowhere and just jumped off the cliff like flying squirrels after the helicopter, and it just made me think of one particular scene.
Oh, they fly now!
They fly now? They fly now!
Now, one other movie this reminds me of is kind of gave me War of the Worlds vibes because you learn that they've always been here. This movie definitely gave me some 80s, 90s vibes because it's got a lot of action. It's, you know, the unlimited ammo thing, but it's the action in general. It's got some modern camera angles, modern visuals, modern pretty much everything else. But the vibes that it gave me were 80s, 90s action flicks. Like if Aliens was done exactly in the future, like now, that's kind of how it would be. If you're a fan of Aliens, Predator, anything like that, I think this movie is the movie for you. It was a good movie. I don't understand some of the negative reviews that it's getting. Don't get me wrong, it was not a perfect movie. There were some things that were kind of meh, but all in all, it's a really good movie. I would give this movie a rating of, I'd watch it twice. All in all, this movie was a fun time. I would recommend it to anyone, especially if you're a fan of that particular genre. Well, that about does it for me. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the movie, and I'd love to hear what you got to say. So while you're there, don't forget to, you know what to do. Always, I am Clint the Knickknack, and I will see you on the next.